This is the road committee, and today we're interviewing a architectural firm, GRW, for the design of the new road department building. And we welcome everybody. Whom we have today is with us from our staff is in-house is Squire Lambert Moore, and our planning and zoning director, Robert Hewitt, our maintenance director, Jeremy Colston. We have Ann Northcutt, grants administrator, John Mitchell, road department supervisor, superintendent, Magistrate Squire Tracy, and assistant road superintendent, Stephen Hockensmith. Rob, you want to get that?
Yes.
Thank you. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Piper and GRW. And if you would introduce your staff that's here, and we look forward to your presentation. Good morning and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to come present today. And again, my name is Jimmy Piper. I'm architect and project manager for the design team. And Corey Sherrard on my right, she is mechanical engineer and head of our mechanical department. Todd Cantrell in the blue suit to my left, and he is electrical engineer. Tim Tong is our head of surveying and LiDAR scanning. And then John Markham behind me is structural engineer. So, and then not able to be with us today is our civil engineer, Roderick Saylor. But with that said, if we could, I guess, go ahead and start the PowerPoint.
Andrew, can you handle that? Can you get that going?
He's coming.
Are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Just give me just 1 second.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
You go ahead and make any, if you want to tell us about your firm.
Sure. GRW was founded in 1963 by G. Reynolds Watkins, an engineer. And
Is that where GRW comes from?
Yes.
I was wondering about that.
And since that time, I guess they started out with about 5 staff members. And since that time, we have grown into a company of over 200 folks. At the Lexington office, right around 100 people at this time.
Wow.
I joined the firm in 2006. And we've been growing the architecture department since then. And we have, as I indicated earlier, Tim is surveying. So we have all the engineering disciplines in-house: site civil, structural, mechanical, electrical, surveying. Then we also have water resources, which is wastewater and water projects. We have a number of satellite offices, but Lexington is the main office.
Okay. So we now have it up, and you know, this project is a new design of a new road department. What's unique about this, and I'm sure you're aware, but I'll just say this for the public as well. What's unique about this particular project is that it's designed, and then we all have a construction manager, but we'll also be having to operate out of the facilities as we're building new facilities, so on site. So the logistics is going to be part of the issue that we're going to have to confront and work with during this time. So our road department will not be shut down. It will continue to do what it needs to do, which is whole lot in our community. And so we'll need, whom we pick will not only design the building, but will help us in the CM as well with logistics of
Sure.
how to operate at the same time.
Sure. So can everyone see the presentation okay on the virtual end? Okay. So I put A plus E up there equals, and what you get from having in-house, all disciplines in-house is a well-coordinated project from start to finish. There's no hiccups in schedule because we have out-of-house consultants that are working on other projects for other architects. And you have a group that has worked together on multiple projects under multiple circumstances. And then the size of our firm, if the schedule requires, we can add personnel to the project to increase the production. One of my key jobs is to listen to the stakeholders from the beginning of the project through the end of the project to determine what the most important parts of the project are for your stakeholders, and to make sure that those important items are included in the project from the beginning of design into construction, checking the shop drawings to make sure that what the contractor is providing meets our documents and meets the expectations of Franklin County. And then at the end of the project, making sure that all of the approvals are in place to get you open on time. All the while, we're looking at cost. We will work with the CM throughout the project, but we will also have some independent sources for pricing. And so typically the method that we work on estimating during projects with the CM is we're doing kind of independent estimating, and then we come together and make sure that our estimates are aligning, or if they're not aligning, why is this, for instance, this metal building more than this metal building number? Did somebody miss something? Is somebody overcharging for a sandwich panel on their building? What might the issue be, but catch it before the project goes out to bid. So make sure that the documents are clear to all the bidders and that we're getting apples to apples prices, and we're getting prices that are in budget at the end of the day.
One of the things that we feel is important as we build projects of this magnitude is that we use as many local contractors as possible.
Okay.
So we want to make sure that is upfront out
Sure.
there. So
Makes sense.
local as much as possible.
Well, there we go. So you've already met the project team. Your RFP also asks us to include special inspections, and we included CSI on our team and have worked with them multiple times. And I talked with Shane Brashear yesterday, and they are ready to go if we are selected for the project. And typically on the front end of projects, we would do a geotechnical exploration. I don't know if that has already been done, but they could also do that work as well. But I'll include a little bit more about not the relationship, but the interaction of the disciplines as we kind of go through the projects. guess I'm gonna have to. Can everybody see me all right? I'm gonna remain standing, so my
Yeah, I
remote
can
works.
say that.
So, I'm gonna go through a number of projects. I'm gonna focus a little more on details on the first couple of projects. Maintenance facilities, at first look, they seem pretty straightforward, cut and dry, but as with everything, the details matter. And if you look at this slide, you see a bus on a lift, you see radiant heat above it, you see high bay lights, you see simple saver insulation system. That's the metal strapping that's a grid with cloth on top of it, and then the insulation is above that. So we have relationships with multiple lift manufacturers. And when I say relationships, they know us, they help us determine which product is going to be the best for your vehicles or for your use. In this case, or in the early phases of this project, I went out and looked and measured every bus that Pulaski County's fleet had. They had pretty much 5 majorly different models. And so we had to coordinate and find a lift that was going to lift all of those different size buses. And then also they wanted to be able to maintenance their maintenance vehicles, their pickup trucks, and I think they even had a dump truck. So it was coordinating, making sure that all those could be supported off this one lift. Basically, one end of it is stationary, and then the front lift part of it slides up and down depending on the length of the vehicle. So, and then we also had to coordinate, well, when the bus is fully in the air, we have to make sure the structure is where it needs to be. The heat, the radiant heating, the lighting, make sure that, the light's still going to make it to the ground and the bus is not going to hit the structure or anything like that. Not only during design do we have to coordinate that, but when the steel building shop drawings come in, we have to look at those and make sure that they didn't, change the depth of a member for their design. Or when the radiant heat comes in, is it the same as, how we drew it? Make sure. So basically continually coordinating from design through construction, all of those items. Now, I talked about the simple saver insulation at the roof. You may have seen in pre-engineered metal buildings, the poly-faced or vinyl-faced fiberglass insulation that they just lay it over the structural members and it comes down and comes back over the structural member. And then if you ever have a leak, that vinyl puckers down until somebody pokes it and the water comes out of it. And then over time, that doesn't look very well. You get dust, it's hard to clean. So this system gives you a very clean look. It allows the insulation to stay where it's supposed to stay up in the structural members. And then it also has a spacing system at the purlins so that you get a thermal break between the purlins and the roofing. Typically, it's a standing seam metal roof. And so the standing seam metal roof, the main detail that we look at is how it's fastened. A lot of pre-engineered metal buildings want to use an exposed fastener system, meaning a hex head nut with a washer through the face of the standing seam metal. And we typically will specify a hidden fastener system so that basically you can get a longer warranty on the roof. When that washer wears out because of UV, it's going to start leaking. If you have a hidden fastener system, then or a non-exposed fastener system, then you're not going to have that issue. So some of the other things that are coordinated in here are how do you get the utilities to the lift and from the lift to the control area. And so that's another item that's continually coordinated throughout the project.
Mr. Piper, as we look at this design or this picture here, you see metal braces. Are you what kind of delays or what are you seeing in ordering those type of metal framework for a garage like this?
The pre-engineered metal buildings have been running about 6 to 7 months lead time. We're going to be bidding. We've got one out to bid right now, or a project out to bid right now that's going to be a pre-engineered metal building. And I will know a much tighter lead time when we get those bids back and we hear from the contractors what the lead time is on the pre-engineered metal building. One thing I didn't talk about is also the wall system. You can have exterior panel, that same insulation I was talking about, vinyl face, fiberglass insulation, and that can be your wall. Or if the next step up, you would have a liner panel on the interior, say up to 8 feet to protect that insulation. But what we're finding is that the best economy for the dollar and look that you're going to get on this particular project. I had the metal building folks come back and say, the way this is designed, we can give you a sandwich panel more economically than the way you have it designed. So in the end, we ended up going with the sandwich panel, which is finished metal on the outside, rigid insulation, finished metal on the inside. Comes out in all one panel, goes from the floor up to the roof line. And so when that panel goes up, you have a finished wall inside and outside. So it also speeds up the construction process.
How thick is the insulation? Is it 2 inch or 5 inch?
It depends on the R that we're trying to get to. Polyiso is about, I think, R6 per inch. And we need to get to like an R19. So it's usually around 3 inches.
What was the construction schedule for this project? Do you recall?
It was, I can tell you that we had a very bad winter when we were building it, and it went a little bit long. I want to say it was 18 months.
Okay.
When it was all said and done.
Thank you.
Does this particular building have an administration building connected to it?
I'll go to that slide.
Okay.
Because I have the floor plan. So this particular building, it had several storage rooms on the side, I think tire room and a parts room. It had a work room where they were doing other tasks that away from the buses. You had a waiting area for the bus drivers that are bringing the bus, and then you have an office and then a restroom. And then some of the equipment was coming from their existing facility, like the waste oil tank. And so we were also coordinating existing equipment that needed to come to the building. The reason I put this slide on it in the presentation is I just wanted to talk about how we coordinate the drainage of the slab inside the work area. Our goal was to, one, you want to keep water away from the pits where the bus lifts are. So we want to drain away from those. And we have to be level enough that the bus gets onto the lift properly. It's not too much of a slope. And then we want to minimize the linear feet of trench drain. Because of general maintenance, and 2, for cost. If you can imagine if you had a trench drain the length of that building, how much more expensive it would be than having the 5 short sections of trench drain that we have. have there. And I think generally it makes an easier maintenance.
Or what is Keynote for?
Keynote 4, that is the control module for the lift. It's like a stand-up, and it has all the controls on it. It has a video screen. And so basically that's where you can control those lifts from there, or they have a mobile that's hanging on a cord that you can walk around and control the lift mobilely around the area of the bus.
Thank you.
So I had these site plans in there. This was the site when we received it. You have multiple buildings. I don't know if this is going to show up. No, it's
There's a yardstick up there if you want to use it.
right. Okay. So this was their board administration building. But basically, they got this site from the local electric co-op that moved to another facility, and they bought this. And so all these buildings were existing. They were interested in saving these buildings for their maintenance facilities and storage and distribution. They're interested in using this building as their board building and staff offices. And so we were given roughly this area of the site. So you had 1, 2, several buildings, you had existing tanks. And so that was kind of the starting point of the survey. So what we ended up proposing was putting it here. You're seeing where we are patching, repairing, or blacktopping areas that are currently gravel or need to be repaired in gravel. And then we packaged an alternate for the bus parking lot, which was gravel at the time, for this area over here, because they wanted to make sure that their bids came in, that they at least got a project where they got the building. And then Todd Electrical, he designed the engine block heater, electrical supplies. There's different stations along here, so when the buses park over there and it's cold, they can keep those buses warmed up.
Did you have a wash station as part of?
So there, in one of the bays of this existing back building was an existing wash bay.
Okay.
So we did not have to include a wash bay in our building or in our design.
Do you have a slide that shows those lifts with nothing on them? Do they go down into the floor?
They are flush with the floor,
Okay,
except for one of the axles to make sure the bus is in the
Sure.
right position. It rolls into
Got a
some
roof.
cups that recess into the slab. So the next project is at Berea College. It was 2 buildings. It was an auxiliary maintenance building, and which that's the picture of the interior of that. And then there is also a building that was shops for all of their different trades for their facilities maintenance people. And then an office area for their facilities folks. So this is the Google picture hasn't captured the completed construction, but I thought it would be easier just to look at this. So 2 things I want to talk about on this slide is we did coordinate with the state for a new entrance on this state road, was part of our work. And then this site was too low to gravity flow to the existing sewer line. So we designed a grinder pump station and pump to the manhole for this project. So this is the auxiliary maintenance building, and the facility maintenance building. So all the shop, all the, like the different trade shops are back here. There's a mezzanine, and then there's a 2-story office piece in the front. And then this is all storage. You have the electric cart. I think I have a floor plan, yeah. The electric cart area. So they have maintenance carts and they pull in and park and charge. And so the circulation is like this through there. We had 2 bays that were their bus parking. They don't really maintenance them in there, but that's where they park. They have their fleet maintenance area here, and that we coordinated the installation or the reinstallation of their existing lifts there. They do have a car wash for their campus vehicles, storage, and then this area is dedicated all to recycling. There's a compactor and a shredder. So that's how that building lays out. And that's a finished photo from an angle where you can see both buildings. One of the key, I guess, envelope issues on these types of buildings is the R value of the overhead doors and the seals around the overhead doors. And so we look very closely, or we work very consciously when we spec those, when we draw the jam and head details, make sure that we're getting good seals, that we're getting the door that has a good, a good R value. So because it's a major part of your envelope on these types of buildings.
Do you use fans in these types of buildings to move heat?
What did we use in the?
It ended up being high volume, low velocity, or big ass fans that were utilized in this space. But you don't have to use the big foil fans like that. You can also use something that's just air circulation that are very small and kind of
Yeah,
disappear.
there were some areas we used those. I think you called them pairs.
They're called air pairs, correct.
And so they're
So you get the same effect where it circulates that air, but they just don't get in the way of what might be up in your ceiling.
Mhm. And you all look at that as part of your design and what,
Yes.
Yes.
how to circulate air. Because we've talked about whether we condition the garage itself or use the doors open in summertime and circulate the air.
Typically, the large shop areas are heated and then in the summer ventilated,
Mhm.
and not cooled. But we can be told what your requirements are and make it happen.
Was a vehicle emission evacuation system installed in this as well? Like a
In-
Uber type system?
In this particular project, no, if I'm remembering correctly.
No, they did not on this one.
But in the bus garage, did they?
The bus
Yes.
garage, yes.
Yes.
Each position where there was a bus had and I'll get to another slide. I'm gonna show a couple of quick projects just to show some different styles of architecture or construction. I don't know, have you all had any discussion about what you want the outside of the building to look like? Are you already thinking just a straight up pre-engineered metal building? Are you thinking you want, like this?
All of this is preliminary, so
Okay.
we've had basically and this is just basic, we built the fire station. And the fire station, the lower part, I think, is brick
Yes.
on the administrative side, and then the upper part is metal. And so
Okay,
that's just temporarily thought about, or preliminary talked
okay.
about.
Well, in this particular case, you have brick masonry, and then you have a precast sill, and then you have cedar siding. They were interested. We had done a project for them out at their Pinnacles Trail, where they have like a 9,000 acre forest, and we use some cedar out there with masonry, and they like that look, and so they were interested in using that again there. But, we've done buildings that are, all masonry exterior, with a low slope roof. This project happens to be an addition renovation of an existing, car dealership. So we took the garage that was already there, repurposed it, and then added to that for, the city utilities. This is a recent fire station project. And I guess I understood from talking with you, Robert, that you all want drive-through bays, which is, in my opinion, the best way to go for a lot of these facilities. This particular facility had an overhead rail crane, and you can see the exhaust systems there on the side with long arms to get to the vehicles. And then this field maintenance shop for Army Guard and reserves. You can see the hose reels for the exhaust system where they take them to the exhaust pipe. This is your POL delivery system, your lubricants and other fluids. So you have cubes that are in an area by themselves. We have a trench system where the piping comes throughout the building. You can access the pipe to maintenance it. And it comes to these stations, and there's a reel for each liquid that you're using. And then I think there's also waste. So it will take the waste back to a holding tank. So if you want to, that type of system in your building, we have designed that.
Does that trench also incorporate floor drainage?
No, that is just for the POL system.
Okay.
This particular project, they were pretty adamant about trench drains at the doors. So
When you design these type of structures, do you put skylights in? Is it that not useful?
we have done, usually the reason we do a skylight is on a treatment plant, and they want to be able to remove a large tank or a large piece of equipment to maintenance it in the
Oh,
future.
okay.
So they can take the skylight off, set it over, crane that out. In this particular case, we did clear story lighting or high strip windows.
I see. Okay. Yeah.
And so you get,
Works the same. They just
you
trying
pretty
to,
much don't, in my mind, you hardly ever have to turn those lights on.
that's
Because of those windows.
that's exactly what I was thinking.
And we did the same thing in that Berea project.
Okay.
Because I don't know whether you would do this in this type of system, but lights are now going to where they're motion sensitive
Correct.
type of thing.
There are controls requirements that
Mhm.
Todd's very familiar with. And I think sometimes the requirements frustrate owners, but we do our best to meet the code
Mhm.
and make the client happy. This project I included just because they are a repeat client. I don't think you will have loading docks, but it incorporated a number of loading docks, and it has just the way the building is made is a little bit different. Just so you,
What's the lower portion of the exterior?
it is masonry.
Okay.
How many bays are in that building right there? That's 152,000 square feet. How many bays?
I'm gonna say, just looking at that photograph, it looks like it's about 10.
Okay. Because we're looking at building a building at Lakeview Park was 160,000 square feet, even bigger than that. So looks like a
Okay.
pretty big building right there.
Yeah. And then this is an example of a small municipality that we needed to hit a very tight budget for volunteer fire station. And
If you don't mind, one thing we haven't talked about, and several of these guys and people on the screen have asked in other interviews about the flooring and what do you put down for its non-skid, slippery floors?
well, there's a fine line there of cleanability and non-slip.
Right.
And I know that, Robert, you mentioned epoxy,
Mhm.
which being architects that support water resources engineers or water and wastewater plants, we are very familiar with the different epoxies. You know, we typically specify around 3 manufacturers. And you can put additives in those for non-slip or slip resistance. And then that way you can finish your slab, with the large trowel machines and get your control joints cut properly, and then come back and finish the surface when all of the dirty work is done with the epoxy. And then we can typically, when we're specifying flooring or paint or floor coatings, we are going to meet the requirements of slip resistance that are put out there by folks like the ADA and other periodicals that we have.
Are there techniques other than adding an aggregate to it or chemical applications?
Well, there are ways, and John, you can chime in if you know of anything that I'm leaving out, but there are multiple ways to do it.
Okay, because you talked about cleanability.
Right.
So-
We, on the project with the FMS, there was not in this building, but there was another building that had a large meeting room. I'm talking 6,000 square feet. And it was basically where they did indoor drills. They didn't want any control joints. So we used a type K cement in there. And I went back for the 1-year inspection. We didn't put any control joints in that room. And there was not a single crack in that floor. So there, if you want to look at other methods to reduce your number of control joints and also cracking, we can look at those. We can see what the price premium is on something like that.
The one in Somerset was a structural slab and it didn't have any joints. We actually designed that slab specifically for no joints. So it'll have some fine cracking, but it won't have broad base cracking.
Okay.
That's, you can design those floor slabs for those situations. And that one particularly in Somerset was kind of a matte slab anyway, where it kind of floated.
Mhm.
It was specific for both the site and for the buses. The picture of the one with the bus lifted up, that was that project.
Based on soil conditions?
Mhm. Correct.
What kind of flooring is on that right there?
This just has a clear sealer on it after they painted the safety lines on it. That's basically what they wanted.
I agree with Jimmy. It's based on what you want as far as the finish of the concrete. And there is, like he said, there is a fine line between slip resistance and functionality of cleanliness and other things. If you get certain products, then you get problems sometimes, and not good problems between what you're wanting to accomplish and the functionality of it. And then there's also problems in construction is the cleanliness during construction also plays into that too. So for instance, if you're going to go in there and do a polish on that concrete, and that's going to be your finish, you absolutely cannot get clay on that concrete or it will stain. And it will be permanently stained. So there are items for application of products that you have to take into consideration during construction. If you're coming in with epoxy later, you still can't have the dirts and stuff on there, because when the epoxy comes in and tries to adhere, you'll have that contaminant and you got to get it out.
Mhm.
So there's specific items you got to take into consideration during construction, depending on what application you're ending up with.
Some finished materials, you can't put like a clear cure and seal on it, for instance.
Correct.
So then you have to water cure your slab. And that, that takes, that's more labor intensive and generally more costly. So, you have to look at the entire construction and, make sure that, well, we're going to use this finish, but we're not going to be able to use cure and seal when we pour the concrete. So we're going to have to water cure, and how is that going to impact the cost of that slab or the overall cost for the project?
Okay.
How long does that water cure usually take?
I'm recalling like 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, a couple weeks.
Really? Wow.
That's
Me on that.
That's what I did in mine. Mine doesn't have a cut in it, and it's not got a crack in it anywhere. I put a water sprinkler on it for 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the type K cement slab that I was talking about, they basically had to water cure that for 2 weeks. And I think they use a special vapor barrier on top that would allow moisture to penetrate, but also hold the moisture on there.
Like burlap.
Yes, like burlap.
Usually you want to cut the joints within 24 hours, even though you're still going to cure it for 2 weeks. That concrete's green for 2 weeks. It can do a lot of things if you don't cure it properly.
So I guess during the assessment of your jail, we talked a little bit about this project in meetings when we came with ESG. Corey and I were here, and so we found out a little bit about then, and you had shared the survey with me that I've clipped into here. But I guess this is what we know right now, just from prior discussions with everyone about your project. And this is an example of how I would try to, track everything that was talked about during the project. Keep it in a matrix, make sure that at schematic design, we've included everything on the list. When we get to construction documents, did something drop out? And if it dropped out, was it because you all didn't want it anymore, or we agreed it cost too much, or whatever it was? But tracking stakeholders' requirements for the project throughout the duration. of the
If I could add to the discussion about the survey, we have purchase agreements for 2 adjacent tracks that for on land that we're currently occupying.
Sure.
So we do have a surveyor who is performing that boundary survey and consolidation plat for those 2 tracks.
Okay.
So
When will that be ready? Everything done, Robert?
should be in the next 3 weeks.
Okay.
So you had indicated in the RFQ that we were to include surveying, and so Tim would be in charge of that. And I'm assuming that's so we can pick up topo and utilities and
Yes.
and anything that we need.
Correct. So this is just a boundary survey with the consolidation plat to accompany the property transfer.
So we had put this in with our proposal. I know that the goal for you all is to get under construction and get the project done as quickly as possible. And I think you will not find a better team that can do that, just because we have all the in-house engineering, we have in-house surveying, we have special inspections lined up that could also do geotech. So I don't know, that this was set up to, I guess, beginning of March. Obviously, we're not going to begin at the beginning of March, but this was just a draft of what we thought.
So 3 months from schematic design to bidding. Is that accurate?
If we get all the decisions made in a timely manner as we go through
Okay.
the project.
And then I see 3 owner review periods.
Yes,
Are you giving us what, a week, 10 days on that?
that looks like about a week.
Okay.
Yeah, 10 days.
All
But,
right.
sometimes there's weekends and whatnot.
Sure.
I mean, we would adjust it to specifically when the project started and how much time you thought you would need and physically need.
And then let's see, what is it? For the bidding phase, are you looking at what, 3 weeks roughly?
Yeah, at the time we put this together, we did not know that the project was going to be construction manager. Obviously, they're going to have input on the bidding schedule, how they want to package it. Is there a reason to get a package out early, or do you all as the owner want to know a total number before we turn the spade of dirt? There are things you can do to, basically fast track it, but then you have to, you have question marks of your total cost until that last bid package is let. So you could let site grading and utilities, and then foundations and the building, and then the rest of it, but you're not going to know what your total number is until that last bid package is the kind of the deal breaker for a lot of owners.
So some time versus total cost, right?
Yeah, but what are you seeing in a percentage or inflation with products now? What are you seeing?
Depends on what day I call.
Yeah,
I mean, I've heard that dimensional lumber, like regular 2x4s, that had rolled back a little bit, but then steel is still increasing. So,
And what about electrical components, Todd? What,
It's,
switch gears and that kind of
yeah,
stuff?
it's lead time is the big thing, for us. We're seeing one thing that kind of blew me away a couple of weeks ago was talking to a utility. They can't get an electric utility. They can't get transformers at all. So, I mean, we're seeing 60 weeks on like generators,
60.
60 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah, I've got a project under construction right now. It's lead time on a generator, 60 weeks.
Wow.
And what you see with that is we're getting products submittals in, and looking at the quote as part of that submittal, there's language in there that if we don't turn this around in a matter of days or a couple of weeks, there's a price increase associated with that.
Right.
So it changes every day, if not weekly. But the lead times is the big.
Same thing with mechanicals?
Correct.
Okay.
I just bid a project that, between the day it bid and the day the bid was, awarded, there's been a price increase and a lead time change. It's just very fast. Some of the suppliers, some of the manufacturers are playing some games with, you can now pay extra to get what they call a quick ship option and move yourself ahead of the line. So there's a lot of that happening, unfortunately.
So how does that impact the contract with the contractor and how it relates to liquidated damages?
You know what, you have it's definitely something to be considered. It's definitely something that, even with this project, that was one of the main questions. What happens if it doesn't get here when, you want it to get here? And in these times, I think we all just have to be a little bit more patient and understanding and offer up. And the way I approached it with that particular project was we would do a change order for time.
Yeah, no cost change order. Okay.
Correct, to not have to have the liquidated damages incur
Flexibility is key right now to
on the, right.
unincreased cost.
The more time you give someone, the less cost you will incur.
So I guess the key point for your project, because you're going to occupy the site during construction, is we need to make sure that we design in options for you to be able to operate if something occurs that draws that construction time out. So that you can be flexible and you're not, working in ways that you don't want to be working.
Yeah, that's gonna be key to this whole project is how do we keep doing what we need to do while we build when we can. At the moment, we can get it,
Yes, sir.
In working with your product suppliers, are they giving you any indication that it's going to return back to normal anytime soon, or are they just keeping quiet?
Well, specifically on the mechanical side of things, anything that has that chip in it, rooftop units, large scale heaters and things like that, they are built and just sitting in, storage places, and they're just waiting for that final little chip. So the chip, and it's my understanding that we are now in the United States building a lot of chip manufacturing facilities. So that we further, in the future don't have this problem. But yeah, I believe it's going to just take a while to get kind of back in the normal.
So with all that being said, construction costs on one of these buildings went from how much a square foot to so-and-so such a square foot, are you thinking? Are you seeing? And that's even hard to say now because it fluctuates so much.
I will just say a percentage wise, if that helps, we're seeing like 25 to 30% over previous costs.
What was the previous cost?
For I don't know the total building cost. I know just mechanical numbers. So, a mechanical cost for a building of this would be, maybe $30 to $50 a square foot.
Just for mechanical?
Just for mechanical, yes, sir. And then we would be seeing an increase in that.
So the one thing we did on the Pulaski County project, that bus garage, is we bid the lifts as a separate package. So we didn't have a GC markup on the lifts. So there are other things that we can do to help Franklin County save money. Of course, we'd have to work through the CM and I guess they would have some markup, but not as much as a GC would have on something, because that was I think the lifts were $300,000 by themselves on that project.
For how many lives?
Three.
For 100,000 per lift?
Yeah. So, but they're very substantial lifts because of the size of the load. Of course, you're going to have substantial lifts because of the size of the load.
You can do the same thing with Green's new metal building guys too. If you get them on early, you kind of get on their list.
You at least get in line.
You get in line early.
Correct.
You wait till the end of the construction documents, then you're wherever in that list.
Well, that's why we're interviewing architectural firms and CMs to help us with that. Because this is not our business. This is, we need help, advice.
Okay, well, we will certainly be helpful.
And we do have a lot of experience with construction management
Okay.
projects.
Yes,
Do you have thoughts on large purchase products where we can buy them tax-free?
Mhm.
You do?
Well, I have a lot of experience with schools, and they're always doing, the saving on the taxes. So, and especially with CMs, which are also a large portion of school projects, they at the front end determine direct purchase orders, and you just decide what you're going to want to pay ahead of time. And the contractor can even help with that, with like, I have a large purchase over here from this manufacturer that can we put that in? So yeah, at the very beginning of the project, there's a lot of paperwork, but they all offer up these bulk amounts that you can then create a purchase order that can be direct purchased by you and then just go through the contractor.
But you wouldn't want to do it on everything because the
No.
plumber can't.
You don't
You
want to
know,
go down to
you
the
don't wanna
little
do that.
bitty things.
Right,
You do want to keep it at that bigger level.
Usually you do it on big lots.
Right.
Yeah.
And we did that also for the Berea College projects that we do.
Mhm.
So it's pretty standard practice on a lot of our projects. But as Corey was saying, we have worked in varying delivery methods for project. We've worked design build, both as the owner's representative and as the or the designer for the design build team. To work for both would be a conflict. But then we've also delivered multiple projects using the CM method. So, and we have owner architect agreements, or the AIA does, that are set up for projects that are going to be delivered through the CM method. So the wording of the owner architect agreement works with, and we use the CM version of the construction contract with the owner. And so the language works together, and so that there aren't any gray areas.
Let's, if you don't mind,
Sure.
let's see what questions the Zoom people have. Are you at the point for questions?
Sure.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. Squire Tracy, why don't you go first?
Okay. Will you explain your billing percentages and the process?
For the architect fee,
Yes, sir.
so typically it is 20% of the fee for schematic design. And are you talking about the breakdown of the fee or actual percentage of fee?
Yeah, the breakdown of it and your billing cycles per se.
So we would typically bill monthly. We do have some contracts that the owner wants us to bill wait to bill at each stage of the design, like schematic design, design development, construction documents. But typically it's 20% for, well, my math isn't gonna end up right, but it's 20% for SD or schematic design, 20% for DD, design development, and then 35 or 40% for construction documents, 5% for bidding, and then the rest of it for construction administration. But we can set it, we're not locked in. We're flexible. As far as what, we work from many percentage of construction cost fee schedules. Kentucky Department of Education has one. The State Division of Engineering has one. Berea, we work off of the KDE fee schedule. There's a rural development fee schedule that we're doing a project right now on. So, we can share those percentage fee schedules with you. Typically, those percentage fee schedules include basic architecture and engineering. They do not include detailed like landscape design, which I probably this project's not gonna have. And they don't include surveying, geotech, and special inspections. And so we generally will show those items as a line item. So you know what we are proposing for those. So basically, we would typically base our fee on a percentage of the construction budget.
Okay, thank you. And then,
What would those percentages be? Be based on how much the building's gonna be, or?
Yes, sir.
You said yes.
Yeah, the larger the construction cost,
The lower the
the
percentage?
lower the
The lower
percentage.
percentage, yeah.
Yes,
What's
and they
what's
have
that
a
percentage
whole
range is what I'm looking.
All the ones that he's mentioning, they kind of all hover in the same general range.
In the 5 to 8% range.
Yeah.
Depend, if it's, and I'll be happy to share any and all of those percentage fee schedules with you.
We would like to have that if you don't
Yeah,
mind.
absolutely. Okay. And then Judge, I have one more question.
Go
I
ahead.
noticed that you all referenced the Frankfurt Plant Board Administration Building in your packet. Can
Yeah.
you share any challenges and or success stories that you may have in regards to that particular project?
Well, that was not specifically my project. The project architect for that project is in an adjacent office to me, so I got to hear some items. I think part of it was a struggle with the contractor being timely. And I think part of that was the contractor's concrete sub, or a big part of that was the concrete sub. I know that, the project finished on a positive note, and that they continue to ask, our project architect for that project to come back and work on other projects. So
Yeah, we're
That's
the owl.
the owl.
Okay, we're good.
Sorry.
Okay.
So did that answer your question to your satisfaction?
It broke off. I heard that they had asked you all to come back and work on more projects. So yes, it did.
Um,
They're doing a renovation to,
The cable building, we're gonna do HVAC renovation and some new lighting in that building.
Is that the one on Hickory?
Yes.
any other questions?
No, sir.
Okay, Miss Ann?
Thank you so much for your presentation. No, my questions have already been answered.
Okay,
Thank you.
John?
I'm good. I don't have anything extra.
Okay,
Thank you.
Stephen? Don't hear you, Stephen. Stephen, you're
There
muted.
he is.
There you
I don't have any questions at this time.
Thank you.
go. Okay. Lambert?
No, this might have been before your time, but did y'all do the preliminaries where Monoplast is, or do you do work for Monoplast?
Not that I know.
I know that started out as a GRW project, and I just wasn't sure if it was the same GRW.
Do you know what year that would have been?
90s.
90s? Yeah, I would have to ask some of our folks
Yeah.
that have been there for a while.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I'm just gonna go to Jeremy and see if he had anything.
The pay, do you base your pay on like your design or the, like if you bring a plan to us and we cut out of that? Is your pay based on what the project ends or what you estimate your first plan to be? You know, if you come in at $5 million, we have to cut $1 million or $1.5 million out of that.
Right. Well, typically what we're going to do is base our fee on what we determine the budget is for the project at the beginning of the project. And then if our contract pretty much states that if we don't design to that budget and it comes in over, that we are to redesign it at no cost to get it in.
That's what I was.
So
We've had projects come in quite a bit higher than we have to
Right.
cut.
typically what we try to do is like we did on that Pulaski County bus garage is if there's a big item that we can price as an alternate just to make sure that you get your project. In that case, it was the paving for the bus parking, which was already in gravel, which the owner could have lived with for a while. But you know, if there are alternates that we can identify to make sure that on bid day, you get a functional project, but maybe you didn't get the disco light in the middle of the warehouse, so to speak. And you know, we're going to try to identify those.
You're gonna charge a fee, so if we add the disco light.
No, we like disco lights.
Or do you design a building, you know, base model first and then, or alternates,
Well,
you know?
You know, there are certain things that can't be alternates because they're code items.
Yeah. I mean,
Like your
oil
vehicle
stations
exhaust and
oil stations and different things. I mean,
it's going to be more about exterior wall finishes and things like that, that you can still get your R value with one system, but another system looks better, is better maintenance wise.
which is
Cost a
more
little bit
important, the efficiency of the building to me would be more important. Spending our money there
Right.
than oil stations or, you know, things like that.
But, you know, a lot of it depends on how many vehicles you have to maintenance and how often, as to whether those POL systems are worth affording. In the instance of the bus garage or the military facility, a lot of vehicles all the time. And so it's saving them from walking back and forth to the, you know, wherever they're storing those materials. It's right there, handy, and they can move through a vehicle pretty quickly with their maintenance.
That's it, Jeremy?
Yes, sir.
Robert?
We did hazardous material testing and a report prepared several years ago on the buildings, so I'm thinking demolition now. Would a phase one environmental be required or requested by the design team? And if so, would your firm do it, or would that be?
We can prepare the request for proposals, but that is something we do not have in-house. But we work with those types of firms all the time. I'm doing a project right now for the administrative office of the courts where we're assessing courthouse, and they've asked us to include environmentalists. Pretty common.
So if we're not using, say, federal funds, would it be required to have a phase one, or is it just good practice to have a phase one?
I think because of what this site has been used for over the years, that it probably would make sense to have one done.
Okay. Thank you.
In your demolition, let's say as we see that steel is so high and there's steel joists in this building, do you salvage those? What do you work with do you know of ways that we could get monies for those if?
Yeah, I mean, you can involve a recycler and separate the materials. And it's been a while since I've done it. I've had to do it on projects. I don't know how much money you would actually get per ton of steel, but we can certainly
It's pretty high right now.
work with the recyclers and determine the tonnage and determine what you might likely get for the building that you're gonna do.
So you've seen.
Oh, yeah, we do it all the time. It's up right now. I mean, you're talking about recycling or reusing, you can sell it for reuse. That takes a lot more time and tearing it down, so.
Right.
But yeah, you recycle tailors, recycling clothes,
Yeah,
Or you
okay,
can
yeah,
have
we do
someone
have
bring
them. That's
it-
right, Taylor's, yeah.
bring a dumpster or something right there to put it in.
And we've not discussed, or the road committee has not discussed.
Yeah, whether we're gonna tear it down or it's gonna be included in this.
Right, and also, there's been no discussion on any sort of lead certification either. So.
Sure. We have lead certified architects and engineers in every discipline.
Okay, so, last but not least, we were gonna try to fast track this, but we decided, that now we're gonna have the decision made in the next couple of weeks and have it on the agenda for the 22nd of April, which would be our next full agenda. And, at that time, we are hoping to have the CM at the same time.
Yes,
Uh,
the contract award.
the contract award for the architectural firm and the CM at the same time.
Mhm.
So that's just an FYI. We'll let you know where we are. And then you foresee if you're chosen that there would be a sit down and negotiation type of phase with this, or is it just straight up?
Well, I think we would want to determine the scope, meaning your program. I listed what I know so far, and then try to get to a square footage, and then work with the CM to come up with a budget, a starting budget that we're designing to, is what I would anticipate, if that's acceptable.
And so the committee would need to decide if they want to do a lump sum bid or break it out into bid packages, right?
Well, I think the CM is going to break it out into bid packages regardless.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's their normal method.
The issue on
that would
fast,
save us money too.
the issue on fast tracking and breaking it out in bid packages is you're starting work on your dirt or your foundation or your metal building before you get that last bid on all the mechanical, electrical, rest of the site, or what, finished site. And so you don't know what your total number is until that time, which understandably makes us nervous, makes owners nervous. They want to know what the total number is at one time, most of the time.
Yeah. It's just like building a house. You want to know how much it's gonna cost.
Right.
Yeah, it's the same type of principle. We are at today looking at bonding it.
Okay,
So that would be part of the process too.
okay,
Once we sit down and got that moving, we would go. Of course, that's a several month process as well.
okay.
What are you running per square foot on buildings right now that you think of off the top of your head?
That's what I thought I asked, but you asked from the mechanical
I
side.
know, he can do the architecture.
I-
the total.
I should have calculated that. I'm gonna guess in the mid 200s, depending on, what all we include. I could see this building coming in at less, or it could come in at, more. Are we talking, I was thinking that you might have as many as 6 lifts, for instance, which
No, we won't
would
have
affect
that.
the crowd.
No, we won't.
Price.
I'd say 1, 2 at the most.
Yeah, two at the most.
2, 3 at the most, probably.
Well, you don't need one in every bay. I don't want one in every bay. but
And then, are you gonna have an overhead crane of any sort for lifting motors or anything of that nature?
They've got one now, don't they? Pretty sure
They
they do.
got chain hoist.
Okay.
So, there's a lot of things like that that affect
Sure.
the price significantly.
And prices are up in the air right now.
The other thing we did in both the bus garage project and the facilities maintenance project at Berea College was we added a mezzanine for additional storage. And that seems to be a pretty good
Yeah,
economical way to get some more storage square footage.
yeah, we were wanting that was one of the ones we had on our list. What about your overages on timelines and budgets? How do you, does that run pretty common these days or?
Well, we stick to the schedule as, sometimes there are things that get in the way if a key decision doesn't get made. But generally, as the project manager, I keep the team abreast of the schedule, and they keep me abreast of any question marks they have. They're going to keep them from meeting the schedule, and we get those answered, and we keep moving. And sometimes we can, when you have a building like this that's not heavy on the finishes side, sometimes you can shorten or you can eliminate one of the design phases or combine it with another one. So in essence, you all don't have to review it 3 times. So that saves a week or 10 days there. And then we can combine SD and DD, or we can combine DD and CD. And then that can help shorten the schedule as well. I mean, there are things like that.
As far as the budget cost estimating, we have a history of being pretty good at it. And especially when you're involving the CM in the project, because that's part of their expertise, is to add that real world cost. So the two combined, we should have a very good baseline. But again, it is these times with the numbers being all over the place. Some of the things we've currently budgeted have come in under significantly even, but some of them have come in way over. So we're all just kind of trying to find our way.
I want you to define real world, because I don't know whether there's a definition
I
of real
understand.
world today.
It
Not
is
the last 2
very,
years.
Yeah.
very volatile at this moment. Yes, yes.
Okay, I think are there any other questions from Zoom? Any
No, I
other
would just
questions?
I don't have any questions, Judge. I would like to thank them for being with us and presenting. So great job. Thank you.
Anybody else? All right.
Thanks for having
All right,
us.
thank you all very much, and we'll be back in touch with you as soon as we can, okay?
I'm gonna leave you with this parting image. This is a recent industrial complex.
Just a sec, sorry, let me get it so I can see.
There were multiple buildings similar to your existing site, and they did not have any existing drawings on any of the buildings. So Tim went there with a LiDAR scanning team, and they were able to scan the buildings in a couple days. And then right now our CAD draft team is drawings from these point clouds or scans. So that's another way that we can speed up the process if we need to include as-built drawings for any of the buildings. This is a very quick method to achieve that. You don't have to get on ladders with the measuring tape, and it's much more accurate. So with that,
Sub-centimeter level accuracy.
Yeah, that is not a photo. That is
That's a point cloud is what
That
we
is
call it.
very cool.
Yeah,
Do you use single zone state plane coordinates?
it's whatever you want to use. We can use Kentucky North or Kentucky single zone.
Okay. Andrea, if, those of you on Zoom, if you would stay on just a few minutes so we can coordinate our, next get together. Thank you all very much. We
Thank you,
appreciate
sir.
it. Great job.
Thank you.
One more question. Those
Sure.
overhead cranes, they run as much as the floor lifts or more?
They are probably more by the time you add in the structural
Yeah.
support that you need.
As I noticed that picture, they had one on rails. Thank you.
Could I get my
Yes.
USB for this?
You guys have a great day.
Thank you so much. Great
Good to see you.
Good to see you again.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good to meet you again.
Good to see you again. Thank you.
Good to see you again.
Hello. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judge. Appreciate
Good
it.
job. Appreciate it. Andrew, you can go. Well, no, you might as well hang on. Cut everything off and just.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, I've got to go back to my office because we're still on we're still live.
Please, yeah,
And
get
I've
that.
got to go back to my
Yeah,
office.
yeah,
and turn
cut-
it off.
Yeah, go ahead, go.
Okay.
Cut it off, yeah. So, you guys, if, I hope you all are okay, but, after yesterday's conversation, we just kind of sat around and said, man, this is going to really push it. And we, it also coincides with the CM. We can get the CM done around the same time, the same court meeting. So I know that maybe next week, do you want to come back and meet next week for about an hour and discuss the three firms? And then we'll also need to set up, it'll probably have to be, the week after next will be spring break, so we'll hold off on that and then come back the following week and meet to do interviews with the CMs. Or just, I guess next week, what we could do is talk about how we want to do the interviews with the CMs, because we'll know at that time how many of them there are. Do you know at this time how many you've gotten in so far?
I'm not aware we've received any.
Oh, really? Okay.
Well, they go to Pam, and I just haven't checked.
Oh, okay. So, if you all are okay, I'll have Pam set up, a meeting. We can do it this same way, next week to discuss, the CMs as well as the architectural firms. Is that okay?
Sure, yeah, CM proposals are due on Monday, the 28th.
Yeah, okay,
I think I don't remember if it's 2 or 4.
whatever. But we won't do it on Monday anyway, so.
Correct. So I'll do my best to get them out that same day.
Okay. Make sure that everybody has a copy of them.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Everybody okay with that process?
Judge, quick question. So does that mean a architectural firm will not be chosen and will not participate in the interview process of the CMs like was initially stated yesterday?
Well,
It's the other way around, wasn't it? CM,
no. I would think that it's, I guess that's probably true that we would not do that since we're not fast tracking it. Well, whomever we get, I'm sure will know. I would think that our CM would have enough experience that they would know the most architectural firms anyway.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a small world.
Yeah, it's a small
Yeah,
world. Yeah.
and the concern with fast tracking the AE firm is that their contract would have to be submitted to us by 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. And that's a little quick, I think, for most firms in order for it to be on next Wednesday's agenda. And also the concern that the county attorney may not have adequate time to review those contracts if it's one or multiple, so.
Right.
Yeah.
I know it was mentioned they were standard. That's the only reason I asked. No, I
Well,
think it makes sense.
apparently some are and
Some
as
are.
the second firm yesterday said they're not, they won't use the standard AIA contract.
Gotcha, gotcha. Okay.
All right, everybody okay with that? We'll get back, I'll get Pam to get with you next week. And we'll talk about the architects. And then we'll discuss the process for the CMs.
Judge, I'm not available Monday morning or Wednesday at all.
Okay, Monday or Wednesday.
Monday
All right.
morning.
We won't do it Monday anyway, because we gotta wait to get the CMs in.
Okay.
That-
Okay. So I won't
Okay.
be available on Wednesday.
Okay, I'll tell her that you're out on Wednesday, okay?
Thank you.
All right, thanks. Thanks, everybody. Everybody good with that?
Yes, sir.
Everybody good? Okay, thanks, everybody.
Thanks.